Hello and welcome to Actually Sustainable, podcast for high achieving women who possibly and probably have ADHD or similar tendencies, to help you learn tips and tricks and facts about how to build and sustain an actually sustainable lifestyle. Today, what we're going to be talking about, we're episode number 5. Woohoo! We've done a month. But today we're going to be talking about why we feel exhausted even if we've rested. So, we've rested, right? So to start off with, I'd like to kind of go back to some of the science of it. Because I think we've all been there. Like we take a rest, we take a vacation, or we sit and we scroll on our phones. I kind of mentioned that a couple episodes ago. We sit and scroll on our phones, or we watch some TV for the evening, or something, and we've rested according to the books and whatever they tell us we have to rest, but yet we still feel exhausted afterwards, or maybe we actually tried to sleep and we still wake up feeling tired. That's a whole other thing. We're going to talk about sleep at some other point, but this is from the neurologic standpoint of actually resting. In the third episode, we talked about how our nervous system doesn't calm down. And so we're stuck in that fight or flight state. Our sympathetic nervous system is in control. And so we don't calm down and we just kind of stay in that, even though we're resting, and we have all of that cognitive load going on. We're thinking about what's coming next and all of the things. And again, if we have ADHD, we have a very small short-term memory, and therefore we're trying to hold all the things, right? We're trying to remember all the things that we need to remember, and it takes a lot of energy, and we're trying to make ourselves get motivated to do the things we need to do, and we need to keep track of who's where and what and all the things. And it's a whole lot going on, all that extra tabs, all the extra cognitive load, all of the extra things. It just takes energy on top of also being in that fight or flight kind of situation. So when we rest, we're doing those things again in that setting where we're thinking that the mountain lion is going to come down and eat us, because we're right in the middle of an open field that they can come up on us, especially if there's like tall grasses all around us that this lion could sneak in and get us. So we end up having this overwhelm, right, of feeling so tired. And we're doing all of this emotional labor. It's not just keeping track of the kids' schedules and who gets where, what, and who likes what on their sandwich, and whatever, all of those little things. It seems small, but it's so much. And we're constantly juggling, we're constantly switching between tasks. And I think I said it before, but every time we switch our focus, it's a fraction of a second. It's like a 0.003 or something like that, 37 seconds for us to switch between. So even though we multitask, we're not technically, we're just tabbing through. We're switching through the tabs in our brain. We're going through the Rolodex, those of you who remember what that is. And so we're finding all of these different, and sometimes it takes a while. That's why if you've ever, I'm famous for this, I'll start to say stuff and the word is not there. I cannot come up with the word, because I can literally hear in my own brain that I'm talking about something else. You'll hear me reference my brain as if I have Dr. Seuss's Thing 1 and Thing 2 in my brain. Thing 1 is the studious, smart one who can do math without any effort and read books and do all the things, right? The Thing 2 is my one who's dancing and playing and painting pictures and thinking up all the things all over the place. So that's the metaphor I use for my brain. And with this, Thing 1 is all over the executive functioning aspect of it, right? It can keep track of the schedule and who does what and where and all of that. But that's all that Thing 1 can do. Meanwhile, Thing 2 is running around trying to figure out all these other things and trying to motivate Thing 1 to actually do something, right? Or it's just that picture of the 3-year-old kind of being dragged, right? I'm sure you've seen that meme of the little toddler being dragged by like the carousel slowly. But it's just that one who's laying down going, I don't want to do it. That's what Thing 2 is doing. It's just laying there kind of on strike. And so it takes a lot of effort. Thing 1 has to be managing all of those things and kind of trying to convince thing two to get up and go. Those of you who have ever had toddlers or dealt with toddlers or cats, we can even say cats, you're trying to get them to do what you want. It's not going to work, right? It takes so much effort. Again, toddlers, you're just trying to get them out the door, trying to get shoes on the right feet and maybe a book bag on their back or like a bag or whatever, then the snacks. But you get them in the car and it's just, you're exhausted from just getting them out the door. That's essentially what neurodivergent brains and many overworked moms and or working high achieving females in general can do, whether they're neurodivergent or not. We have this constant cognitive load, which is this toddler that we're trying to kind of pull along and do. It's easier for those who are not neurodivergent because that logical, setting of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that does all of that executive functioning can just kind of do it. And we don't have a motivation issue. We don't have a dopamine dysregulation issue. And so it's a little easier. Those people with autism, they tend to like that rigidity. They're going to be much more rigid thinking, so they can do patterns. And so their issue with a lot of this is the potential need for switching out. There's a lot of energy involved in maintaining emotional regulation around any variances in their schedules, their set routines that they have gotten, so they can manage the executive functionings because it's a set routine and they do better with the set routines. Often ADHD people do too if they can maintain those routines or they have somebody help them maintain those routines. And again, this is all generalities. Every human is going to have their own specifics along those. Some people are better at this versus that. Some people, especially on the autism spectrum, it's a big spectrum and it's called a spectrum for a reason. People have varying degrees of this. So high functioning autism people are going to be very different in terms of those who are, needing a lot more assistance. So just recognize these are generalizations is what I'm saying. But they are scientifically backed. So you are constantly doing this. And even when we rest, our nervous system is not going to calm down, most likely. And our overall cognitive load isn't going down. And then you throw on top of it decision fatigue, because you're constantly making all the choices for everybody. And people with ADHD, we don't like to make choices. We kind of leave things to the last second and then suddenly panic sets in and we go, what is the easiest, most direct route? Boom, that's what I'm going to do, right? That's not necessarily thought out decision making. Or we sit down, we make the plan, we go through and we do all the checklists because we really like checklists and task lists because they make us feel like we've done something. And we make the list and we kind of think it all out and we make the decision, but then we don't actually follow through to have the thing happen, right? Like I can buy skirts and I can set them out, but then the next morning when it's time for me to get dressed, I don't want to wear the skirt. So I'm just going to wear the exact same thing that I wear all the time. But that's because I have decision fatigue, because by the time I've gotten up, I've also had to wake up the other kids. I've also had to, decide how to do, multiple other things throughout the day. And I'm already thinking 6 steps ahead because that's what we do, right? And I've already had to make decisions about who's going to go where and which order am I going to drop the kids off, which hopefully is a bit of a routine, but maybe not. And, all of that kind of stuff. So you come up with these decisions that you get to. I think it's Steve Jobs who was quoted at one point saying, if you recognize him, he's always wearing that one turtleneck, or he was, right? He always wore a turtleneck. And I think Mark Zuckerberg too, he's known for wearing his hoodie all the time, right? So many people in the business world, they talk about how they have a set uniform. And me in the ER, we always wore black scrubs, even when I'm working in a clinic now, right? I can dress up and do all sorts of things, but some days I wake up and all I do is put on my black scrubs. So many clinicians in the ER, we only wear black scrubs. That's a kind of a universal for all of the sites that I've worked. And it's so much easier to just know I'm going to pull out and wear my black scrubs. That's it. Because it takes away that decision fatigue. We make so many other decisions, and especially in medicine, we make a lot of big, important decisions for other people. And that's incredibly draining. That's incredibly energy draining. It's hard. Sometimes it comes with moral injury. It comes with, some trauma sometimes with it because we're making big choices. And then if there's any errors, then we have the guilt, but we have a lot of stuff, right? And then we're also picking what's going to be dinner and how are we going to do that? And it's all these little decisions as well throughout the day. What brand are we going to buy for toilet paper? What brand are we going to buy the milk from? It's these little decisions, and they add up. There's a lot of them throughout the day. And there's a lot of societal pressure for us women to keep track of all of that. And it's not necessarily easy, and it's especially difficult for people with ADHD to maintain and keep and do all of that. And so my request for you is, one, kind of recognize that you're doing that. Look at your life this week and kind of see, where are you making 8 million decisions? Which ones are more draining than others? Are there any that you can automate? Is there a uniform that you could be wearing for work? Is there, again, I don't know if I said this yet or not, but the whole idea of having like a set schedule for dinners, like every Monday we make, tacos, every Tuesday we have tacos, to Taco Tuesday, and every Wednesday, we have tuna casserole, or I don't know what. We make rice and beans a lot at my house because we're mostly vegetarian, but it's, that the idea of having every single Tuesday have that basically makes me break out in metaphorical hives. I can't handle that. I need to have more flexibility than that. So usually what I do is I have a certain set of ingredients always at my house. That way I know I can make tuna casserole, which I make with curry, and it's really great. But I can make tuna casserole, I can make rice and beans, 2 or 3 different versions. And I can usually make like quesadillas or something along those lines, like quesadillas with beans, any night of the week. So we have that set 3 or 4 items that are very repeatable throughout the week. And usually we do a pizza night once a week. Those are repeatable things, but I never set myself as, we definitely are doing that on this night, because my life is, chaotic, and my body needs that stimulation of some of that variety. But I make sure I always have that set of ingredients, so that on a night where I'm like, crap, what am I going to make? I only have X. I can make this because I know I can make it in this amount of time, and I know I always have those ingredients, and so I always make sure I restock those ingredients. So that's one decision set that I have kind of made. My kids are getting older, and they're kind of going, maybe we should have some more variety. And I'm like, okay, cool. You guys each get a night then. And that's one thing I'm going to try to instill this summer, while they have a little more time between sports and school and everything else. They can do it more in the summer, where I'm actually going to make my sons pick a night that they're responsible for dinner, and they have to give me the grocery list, and they have to check in the house to see if we have any of those ingredients and which ones they need me to buy. And then they're going to make the meal for us, so that they can learn how to take on some of that cognitive load. So that's one thing I'm doing. At least I'm going to try to instill, if I can consistently do it anyway. And then what I'd like you to try to do is find something like that you can kind of automate. One thing, reduce some of that decision fatigue, reduce a little bit of that cognitive load for yourself, and see if that makes a difference. Hand off a task to somebody else, or change it up. Like I said, we just pick black scrubs to wear every day. You can even buy them all the exact same brand, so that they're all the same. However that works, right? Try something along those lines. And because this is the week of 4th of July, we'll have 4th of July before my next episode, I want to kind of give you guys permission, in case you need it, if you're going to any events over this weekend, and you're in any of those societies and groups that kind of want you to home make something, and you don't have the time or the capacity or the interest in making something, I 100% give you permission to purchase whatever it is that you're bringing. Buy pre-made guacamole and chips, or, whatever, pre-made cookies from the store. It's fine. And if you want, if it's like made in store or whatever, and nobody's going to ask, but you feel really weird bringing it in the store's container, put it in a separate container. If anybody asks, be honest, but nobody's going to ask. Or very likely nobody's going to ask, unless they're like, where's your recipe? I'm like, the grocery store down the street, right? But you have that permission. All right, my dears. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope this was helpful. Please give me any comments that you have about it. Any thoughts, concerns, let me know which thing you kind of got rid of, any of your tips and tricks for reducing that decision fatigue in your life. So, kind of give a penny, take a penny kind of concept with tips and tricks there between everybody. And happy 4th of July for those of you in America, which I'm sure all of you are, at least at this stage. If you liked it, share the episode, give me a follow, give me a like, give me a subscribe, whatever. And I will talk to you next week.